I used to think masculinity had a sound. The thud of cleats against the turf, the thwack when a ball meets palms, the thunder of men laughing in a room that smells like detergent and beer. I learned the rhythm by accident and then lived inside it on purpose. Senior year, Captain said my shoulders were made for collision. The guys called me Brick because I didn't bend easy, because my forearms were a rumor you could believe. I wore the uniform like a road sign, navy hoodie with our college crest, sweat cinched at the ankle, battered slides, the sweet hurt of tape around new blisters. In our fraternity house, the hallways pulsed with bass and bravado, and my name knew how to answer when someone shouted from a doorway, "Yo, Brick, you coming out?" I'd grin, clap a shoulder, give some unbothered shrug that meant, yeah, of course I'm one of you. I am the sound you expect. Most nights, though, after the noise thinned and the last red cup sagged, I locked my bedroom door and let the room be mine. The air changed when the latch caught, like the room exhaled, and I finally remembered how. I kept a shoebox on the top shelf, disguised as a mess, utility knives, extra plugs, a rolled-up poster tube. Inside, folded so neatly it felt like a promise, were the things I didn't know how to name out loud. A pair of pantyhose the exact shade of tea with too much milk, a silk slip that learned my shoulders slowly, a thrifted dress, pale green, cut on the bias so it fell like a whispered apology, a small zip pouch with a drugstore palette that looked unassuming, and in the lamplight became a door. I loved the way the pantyhose asked for patience, the gentle gather at the toes, the careful slide past the ankle where bone meets myth, the elastic kiss at my thighs. Nylon isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. When it hugged my legs, the static in my chest changed channels. Even under sweatpants, even beneath layers that read "dude" from 30 yards away, I felt tuned, like my nerves had lined up along a melody only I could hear. The first time I drew a thin brown line where my lashes end and possibility begins, my hands trembled. Not from shame, though shame is a stealthy animal, but from the shocking recognition of my own face noticing itself. The mirror didn't become a stranger. It became an accomplice. I told myself that this year, my senior year, the last lap before adulthood started setting calendars for me, I would pay attention to whatever in me wanted light. I set it in the bathroom to the fogging glass. I'm going to try. I didn't know what trying would look like except in small acts, like wearing pantyhose under gray sweatpants to movie night with the guys, and not flinching when someone slung their calves across mine, like rubbing lotion into my shins and not calling it recovery, but care, like Googling words I'd avoided because I was afraid they would stick. Crossdresser, gender nonconforming, bi ? Every term felt like a shirt I could borrow and return, sleeves rolled to see if the cuffs held. It's not easy to be delicate in a house built to survive stampedes. Our frat is 50 men and a dog named Bento, who belongs to everyone and no one. A yellow mutt who loves tortilla chips and sleeps like he paid the rent. The floors keep stories in their sticky. On Sundays, the kitchen smells like bacon and regret. The living room couch has seen more confessions than the chapel a block away. And my room, tucked at the end of the second-floor hall, is where I learned to zip myself open an inch at a time without anyone hearing. Then there was the party in September, a week into classes, when the air felt like late summer clinging to our wrists. Someone had hung fairy lights between two columns as a joke, but as the night warmed, they looked suddenly intentional. I was leaning against a doorframe, pretending the music didn't itch when I saw him. The thing that made me look was the skirt layered over his shorts, white ruffles that caught the light, a little like cake frosting and a lot like Audacity, and below that, opaque black tights, smooth as a secret. His hair was cropped and soft. He wore a t-shirt with a cartoon moon, and a small silver hoop gleamed from his left ear. He moved through the room like the room had already agreed to be kind to him. That's a rare alignment. People watched, but it didn't feel predatory. It felt like spring when the first brave flowers insist. I caught up to him near the kitchen island where Bento was pretending not to beg for chips. "I like your tights," I said, and tried to make my voice a place where the sentence could land without breaking. He looked at my face, not my shoulders. His smile started in his eyes the way honest smiles do. "Thanks," he said. They're the only warm part of my personality. I laughed a little too happily. "I'm Brick," I offered, immediately regretting the nickname because it sounded like something that couldn't dream. "Jesse," he said, and shook my hand with a grip that said, "I can meet you here," without pretending either of us is smaller than we are. We stood shoulder to shoulder, and our conversation did the thing good conversation does. It built us a small room in the crowd where we could hear ourselves thinking. He told me he was a junior, a bio major, a lab whisperer. Out bisexual, he added, like a comma, like information, not a dare. He noticed Bento finally and scratched him behind the ear. The dog leaned his whole memory into it. When I told Jesse I played rugby, he said, "That's the one where you keep tackling each other until the physics gives up?" I said yes, and he said, "Cool. I fence with microbes. It's less cinematic." Someone turned the music up and the house leaned forward. A keg hissed like an annoyed parent. I watched Jesse flatten a greasy game day napkin into a square and wipe the counter, because some people can't help but make a better place out of the one they're standing in. My heart did a dumb thing I decided not to name. I don't know what courage looks like to other people. That night, for me, it looked like a sentence built on the edge of hope. I leaned in to be heard. "Do you want to come up and chill? My room's quieter. I can promise a movie and a dog." "Only if we can trade tights facts," he said, his mouth tilted towards mischief. "I feel like you have a thesis hiding in there somewhere." I felt my face burn, and I said the truest thing I could. "I might," I said. Yeah. In my room, the lamplight warmed everything into yes. I kicked a backpack under the bed with my heel and thanked past me for making the bed that morning. Jesse looked at the posters, rugby team, a national parks map with thumbtacks where I daydreamed of driving, and then at the small wooden box on my desk. He didn't open it. He asked with his eyes, which felt like a kindness so good I wanted to keep it in a jar. "I cross-dress," I said. The words weighed less out loud than they did in my chest. But lately it's just been pantyhose under sweatpants. I'm still figuring the rest out. Jesse nodded like we were talking about weather patterns. "Do you want to put them on?" he asked. And even I heard the question was not about seduction. It was about relief. I pulled the box toward me and took out the tea milk pair I liked best. It felt like setting a violin in my lap. Jesse sat on the edge of the couch, legs crossed at the ankle, and rolled his knee in a circle absent-mindedly like dancers do. He seemed content in my room the way people look at home in a field. No walls necessary. I pulled the tights on, let the elastic settle. The nylon warmed quick, a second skin teaching me its alphabet. Jesse grinned. "They look good," he said. "They look like you're hearing your own volume." "Thanks," I said, quiet around the throat. "Yours look comfortable." "They are," he said, "and they're armor in a way that doesn't hurt." We put on a movie with the sound low, and watched 5 minutes of it in an hour. We traded stories. The time I tried to contour and looked like a topographical map. The time he wore a skirt to a poetry open mic, and the barista gave him a discount for the audacity. The way my mom used to let me help fold laundry, and I would always volunteer for the delicate cycle, because nothing in the world felt as soft as a pile of tights. We lay on the couch after a while, my back to his chest, his breath at the nape of my neck, both of us in nylon, fabric slipping against fabric like a kind of weather, easy, silken. My heart slowed to match his. It felt like someone had dimmed the fear dial one click. The party below us faded to shoelace whispers. Bento snored on the rug, a metronome of contentment. We didn't do anything you'd need to bleep. We just breathed the same air and let our calves find each other, where pantyhose meets pantyhose. I didn't know my ribcage had that much room. I didn't know closeness could be quiet enough to hear the courage growing. After that night, Jesse started coming over the way a favorite song starts to belong to your morning. Not every day, but enough that the rhythm wrote itself. We were careful at first. He'd text me, "You free?" And I'd check the house like a librarian counting whispers. Sometimes we ate cereal from the box and argued about fonts. Sometimes I'd let him choose a lipstick shade for me, sheer rose that looked like a secret kept kindly or something braver, and he'd lean back and say, There you are." He knew how to pause. He knew the difference between a question and a test. We didn't need to decide our future every time our knees touched. The house noticed. "Frat houses are hives. You feel the tremor in the air before anyone says anything. It started with glances, curiosity without fangs. A brother would pass us in the hall on his way to the laundry room and do the math with his eyebrows. Another would poke his head into my door, see Jesse and me sprawled on the floor comparing thrift store finds online, and keep going, but slower. I didn't feel hunted. I felt visible in a way I wasn't practiced at being. There's a difference. Rugby stayed rugby. Practice hurt and then it didn't. Mud painted our shins in clumsy brushstrokes. Tape squealed when we stripped it. I drove carpool in my sweats with pantyhose whispering underneath and hummed along to songs I'd never admit I liked. In the locker room, the guys joked about the usual. Classes, professors who weaponized attendance. A midterm someone swore was written as a dare. I looked at my teammates and felt both the tenderness and the distance. People can hold you up without seeing you. It's still holding. When Jesse and I walked across campus, we didn't lace our fingers together unless the weather in our chests demanded it. He'd bump my shoulder with his, and the small contact would light me up worse than a sprint. Sometimes he wore skirts paired with sneakers, and the shape of people's stares told me more about them than about him. I marveled at his steadiness. "I wasn't always like this," he said as we studied the sky at a crosswalk. "I just figured out that the cost of hiding was more than the cost of being seen." He said it simply, like he once thought homework chewed through weekends and then realized weekends were chew-proof. We kissed sometimes. On my couch, his hand at my jaw, my palm at his shoulder blade, slow like we were proofreading the moment for typos. Nylon on nylon is not explicit. It is two notes finding harmony. When his lips lifted away, they were flush, and he'd laugh into my mouth like the sound didn't know where else to go. We held hands, and I felt my pulse cast a net and gather calm. None of this made me less me. It just let more of me talk. The week before midterms, he came over with a tote bag full of oranges and a plant he said I couldn't possibly kill. He curled up in my desk chair and watched me try to teach my left eyebrow to behave. "I'm falling for you," he said into the room, not into my face, like the words wanted a little privacy to acclimate. He looked at the plant, then at his knees. "I just wanted you to know. There are some sentences you have to open both hands to catch." I held the words carefully and tested my balance. My body lit with something flammable and also with caution. Part of me wanted to shout, "Same," into the rafters. Another part whispered, "Be sure, be fair." I loved the safety of him, but was I loving him or the sanctuary he let me build? I looked at him looking at me not with expectation but with faith. "I don't know yet," I said, and I hated that I couldn't rename it. "I feel a lot. I feel honest with you. I feel like my chest is a window that finally opens. I don't want to call that a name until I'm sure." He nodded, soft as a nap. "Okay," he said. "We can let it be true at its own speed." We were careful and still, somehow, our care could not outpace chaos. It was a Thursday. The house felt like a beehive after someone rattled the lid. A brother's girlfriend, Sarah, who is best friends with my ex, had drifted upstairs with the tide of people. I had assumed my door was closed. It wasn't. Jesse and I were on my couch, both in pantyhose, mine beige, his black, legs tangled in a way that would make my mother blush, and then ask if we wanted snacks. The lamp bent its light toward us like it was considering a blessing. We weren't kissing. We weren't not either. We were a closeness committed to existing. The door shoved open, and the air changed shape. Sarah stood there, framed in the hall light, mouth parted like she was trying to keep the ocean from escaping. Her eyes did a half loop from our legs to our faces to our legs again. In the half second before anything else, I thought about how cute her shoes were and then hated my brain for its timing. "Oh," she said, on a breath that meant of course, and also how did I not know? And then she turned and fled, the hallway swallowing her up like theater curtains. Voices rose. A new temperature entered the building. I could hear the murmurs stacking. Jesse's hand tightened in mine, not to hide, but to anchor. "Door," I said stupidly, and lurched to close and lock it. It felt both urgent and ceremonial, like shutting a lid on something that had leaked and also opening a window because it needed air. We stood there, two guys in tights in a frat house, and I felt terror glance off me and then bounce away. I was surprised to find I wasn't as afraid as I had always rehearsed being. "I'm sorry," I said to Jesse, because old habits apologize when they can't fix the weather. I should have. He shook his head. Maybe this is a good thing, he said. Or at least a true thing. We sat back down. My heart beat the way feet do when you try to tiptoe and the floorboard still squeaks. For a long minute, we listened to the sounds of other people's conclusions being built in the hallway where I kept my life. Then the noises softened, replaced by someone's laugh in the kitchen and the distant clang of a pot where someone was probably eating black beans out of the can again because groceries were imaginary. Do you want to talk through it? Jesse asked. Yes, I said. And I want to not have to. And I also feel kind of... I searched and found the word because it had been waiting. Relieved. We talked, not like strategists, but like people who'd found the edge of a fear and stepped over it together. I said I'd been planning to come out, in some gentle, controlled way, to a few friends, some teammates, my brother on FaceTime, where I could hide in a bad connection if I needed to. I wanted to do it right, I said, then laughed, because right is a costume luck wears. Maybe there isn't a right. There's just honest. What do you want right now? He asked. I want you here, I said. I want to tell the truth without making it an emergency. I want pizza. Honest and achievable. He said and kissed my forehead in a way that undid me more than anything else could have. We ordered a large mushroom and olive because we both have good taste. We ate it cross-legged on the floor with napkins draped over our laps like the nylon-knitted tuxedos. It was absurd and ordinary and perfect. The next day, the house felt like a quarry where rumors had gone to skip. Plop, plop, plop. People glanced and then remembered to meet my eyes. A couple of brothers did double takes like their brains were buffering. One, James, who wears flannel like it's a lifestyle, stopped me at the top of the stairs. You good? He asked. It wasn't aggressive. It was inventory. I'm good, I said, and waited for my body to disagree. It didn't. Got a minute tonight? I might want to. Talk. Yeah, he said. I'll grab beers, or tea. I can do tea. He looked alarmed by his own flexibility and then grinned. I texted a few people after class. Hey, if you heard something about me and Jesse, it's true. I'm figuring some stuff out, and I'm okay. If you have questions, you can ask them like a person who likes me. If you don't like me, that's also data. I braced for the return ping, then put my phone under a pillow like that could temper fate. Responses came in slowly, then suddenly. A teammate sent a thumbs up and then a second text. I got you in the scrum and out. Another said he didn't get it, but he liked me. Still, same, forever. One, predictably, went with a joke. Does this mean you'll start shaving your legs? And I typed back, I already do. Thanks. They're aerodynamic. Enjoy losing. Then added a winky face because I am evolution in motion. I told my coach in his office that smelled like wintergreen gum and dry erase markers. My personal life is personal, I said, but I'm not hiding it anymore. It won't affect the team unless someone else makes it their business to be weird about it. He nodded, inscrutable and kind. You're a leader, he said. Lead how you need to. If anyone gives you trouble, they can do extra fitness until they renounce the devil. That night, I called my brother from the silent study room where secrets go to hear themselves. He laughed in the soft place between older and equal. Okay, he said. So you're you and also more you. Does this mean I can borrow your moisturizer? You always had better skin. Stay in your lane, I said, crying and smiling because those two often share a seat. Not everyone was gentle. Sarah cornered me on the porch 2 days later. Her ponytail meant business. You humiliated me, she said without greeting, like the script had started already. I walked into something I can never unsee. I'm sorry you were surprised, I said carefully. It wasn't about you. You were in pantyhose, she said, like that was proof of a crime. With Jesse. Yes, I said. And? She floundered, anger without a coastline. My best friend is your ex, she said finally, and she doesn't know what to do with this. You can tell her I'm trying to figure myself out, and I care about not hurting people, I said. And that I'm still me, and also different in the ways I've always been, just now allowed to breathe. She stared like she hadn't considered breath as a limited resource. Whatever, she said, and stalked away in her loud shoes. I watched her go and felt an old fear get bored and wander off. Jesse came over that evening with a new pair of tights rolled like pastries in tissue. For you, he said, for midterms, for being brave when life refused to schedule it. They were a smoky gray, somewhere between dusk and pewter. I slid them on and felt grounded, fancy only to me. He lay on my bed with his arms behind his head and looked at my bookshelf like it was a map. "Can I say something?" he asked, which is how he begins sentences I will remember. "Please." "I meant it," he said. "About falling." I sat on the edge of the bed and let my thigh lean into the line of his. "I think," I said, and paused because words deserve their own air. I might be falling too. I also think I'm scared of confusing sanctuary with love, but maybe love is the best sanctuary we build on purpose. Maybe we can see what happens without naming the future. He reached for my hand, not to claim it, but to hold it so we could both look. "We can do that," he said. "We can let it be kind." I don't know what it looks like to be a masculine guy in a fraternity who loves the glide of pantyhose. Maybe it looks like me, printing study notes and slipping into nylon under sweatpants before I head downstairs for Mario Kart. Maybe it looks like me, letting Jesse put a small sweep of highlighter at the top of my cheekbone, and then sitting across from James while he asks sincere questions that make him blush. Maybe it looks like me at practice, tackling on the whistle and helping someone up on the next beat because strength isn't a limited resource. Maybe it looks like a secret shimmy meeting daylight and deciding not to be enemies. I still don't make announcements in dining halls or what's this. I pick my moments. I tell the truth to the people who have earned it or need it. I'm letting myself be known in increments. An extra earring hole I think about, a nail buffed to a soft sheen, a skirt tried in a mirror when the door is locked and the mirror says, maybe. Jesse and I are careful the way kindness is careful, not fearful. He sleeps sometimes with his head on my thigh while I read, his tights warmed by the curve of my arm. We kiss with a soft hunger that feels like a decision made every time. He asks if I'm okay in rooms, and he asks if I'm okay when the room is only us. Most times the answer is yes. On the days when it isn't, he says, okay, like the word is a couch we can sit on until the storm passes. I'm telling my story now, because secrets grow mold in the dark and I want windows. I'm a senior who can bench a small Buick, and I'm a person who cries at drag brunch because a queen told a table of strangers they were gorgeous and meant it. I'm figuring out where my desire points, and the arrow looks like Jesse's laugh and the steadiness of my own breath when I am allowed. I thought I needed to pick a team. Turns out, I just needed to pick myself. If you're hearing this and your chest aches with the weight of a name you haven't said yet, I'm not wise, but I can tell you what happened when my door swung open and someone saw me. The world didn't end. It expanded by a few inches in every direction, enough that I could take a step and then another. People made faces, some kind, some confused. A few fell away, which hurt and then made space. The ones who stayed learned how to sit with me in lamplight and talk about nylons like they're weather, about makeup like it's a translation, about love like it's a room with many chairs. I plan to keep telling the people who matter the truth. Carefully. Loudly, when loud is called for. Quietly, when the whisper carries farther. I'm happy the secret slipped because it forced me to notice how good it felt not to scramble to hide the evidence. I'm still Brick. I'm also whoever I am when nylon smooths the noise down, and I hear a voice I've always had. Jesse's hand is warm in mine, and we are building a way to walk. Tonight, the house has its own heartbeat. Someone downstairs is failing at the guitar with admirable passion. Bento does his rounds, checking rooms like a security guard with a treat problem. I pull on the smoky gray tights and sit on the floor and let my back lean against the bed. I text Jesse, "You up for a moonwalk?" He sends a photo of the sky, indigo draped across the world like a curtain waiting for applause. When he knocks, he does it in a pattern we made up that first night, a soft rhythm that means, it's me, you can be you. I open the door and he's there. Smiling with the kind of relief I feel right down to my ankles. We lace our fingers. We step into the hallway where people keep their versions of each other, and we add a new one, ours, honest and ordinary, and not asking permission to exist. We pass Sarah on the stairs. She looks at us, then past us, then back. Her mouth opens, then closes. "Hey," she says finally, an experiment of a word. "Hey," I say back. Maybe she tells my ex, maybe my ex texts me, maybe my mother will cry and then send me a gift card for better foundation because she loves in currencies she understands. Maybe my coach will put a hand on my shoulder and say nothing, and I'll hear everything. Maybe a teammate will say quietly, "My brother wears skirts," and stands straighter because the air is different now. Maybe nothing huge will happen. Maybe I'll graduate and stand in a dress under my gown and let the fabric graze my knees like it's always meant to, and I'll look at the camera and see myself, masculine and soft, steady and new. On the sidewalk under a moon that looks like a thumbnail smudge, Jesse and I walk in a slow line past the library, past the gym where the lights hum like bees, past the field where tomorrow my body will be a proof of force. Our steps in sync, our shadows altered only by the wind. In my head, the soundtrack is not a roar, it's something steadier, a nylon whisper, a breath leaned into, the small, brave sound of two people deciding again and again to be real.